Hi guys, it's John here from Android Addicts, and this is a speed test comparison between the S22 Ultra and the S23 Ultra. So you can see here I have an Exynos 2200 variant and the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 here, and the brand new S23 comes with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. So it's going to be an interesting test to see how these fare, and hopefully it'll help you make a decision as to whether it's worth the upgrade if you're thinking about the S23, or whether you are thinking about just getting S22 and just want to compare it to see how well it is stacking up against the S23. These are all the 12 gigs of RAM variant, just a slight variation in internal storage, which isn't going to affect the test at all. So what we'll do is start with a power on test. They're all charged up to 100%, so we will get that running very shortly. First of all, I just want to show you how I'm going to be testing. So here's my patent pending device that I'm going to be testing this with. I've got 3 USB-C adapters here, and we're going to plug them into the phones, and when I click on here, it's going to be pressing the exact same time on the screen on all 3 phones. Right, so we'll start with the power on test, and I'm going to press all these buttons at the exact same time. And I'll just tidy these up slightly so we can get them in order here. So the Exynos 2200 has started up first, followed by the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, and in third place is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 on the S23 Ultra. So quite surprising to see, or maybe not surprising, as this is obviously the release firmware here. These are all on the January update, just so you're aware before we get too far into this. Okay, so we're all plugged in and ready to go, and what we're going to do is run down the app test here. We'll do a bit of memory management after we've gone through each app to see which ones are still in RAM. We'll then move on to the gaming test just to load up each of these games and see how long they take to load and get into a game. And then we'll run some speed tests. They're all charged up to 100%, or they all were. We're down to 99% here on the 2 phones that have been out for a year and have been in use for a year. The 23 is still on 100%. We've got the thermal widget here at the top right of the screen, so you can keep an eye on the temperature of the CPUs. The temperature in the office here is about 17 degrees, so it's nice and cool, so there shouldn't be any overheating. We've got the thermal guardian turned on all 3 with a +2 to the thermal temperature, so there shouldn't be any throttling going on here with any luck. As you can see, they're all set up on the same wireless network, and all the settings are set to the same. Performance or processing speed is set to optimized or standard, so they are all as they sort of come out the box. And the displays are set to adaptive, and they are set to 1440p. Okay, so there's nothing running in memory on any phone, so let's start the test now and see how they do. Okay, so now we can do a bit of testing of the RAM management and see how they're doing. You can see here battery is 94% for both the S22s and 97% for the S23. Temperature wise, the S23 is 3 degrees cooler at 27 compared to 30 on both of the S22 Ultras. So let's go back through the RAM and we'll see if everything is still in memory. Starting with Bing, that all looks good. Moving on to Chrome, it's reloaded here and reloaded here as well. So both S22s reloaded. You can see the results still here on the S23, so that's a point for the S23. Now we'll load into the camera, but that isn't part of the test, so we'll skip past that one. Okay, TikTok. Still there on all three. And the gallery is still there on all three. Spotify. Is still there on all three. As is YouTube. Now you can see it's actually reloaded here on the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, so I will go to yes there, but it did keep it in memory on the Exynos 2200 and the new S23. Google Play is there on all three, as is Reddit. And Twitter. Amazon Shopping is open still. Amazon Prime Video is still there on all three, as is Netflix. Now we've lost the Instagram on the Exynos 2200 there, and that's it. So pretty good RAM management for all three phones. The S23 was obviously the winner there, just about. But yeah, pretty good on all three, but a win there overall for the S23 Ultra. Okay, so everything's now cleared out of RAM again, and we are going to go on to the gaming test now. So we'll start with PUBG, see how long that takes to load up and get into a game. We'll then move on to Genshin Impact and the rest that you see on the screen here. So the Exynos 2200 has come first here, loading straight into the main menu. Now don't forget the S23 is not currently optimised for many games whatsoever because it has only just been released, so it's not surprising it came last there. But what we'll do is we will go into the training ground and just see how long it takes on all three. So these are all set to be smooth and extreme graphics, as you can see here, in both combat and the lobby. Now the highest setting we can set on the S23 Ultra is Ultra HD and Ultra, same as the Snapdragon, and the maximum on the Exynos is still currently HDR with Ultra. But we'll leave it as smooth and extreme on all devices, and we'll just load into the Cheer Park. Okay, so it did just load up slightly quicker there on the S23. Followed by the 2200 and then followed by the 8 Gen 1. Okay, Genshin Impact. Now these are all set to medium and 60 FPS. So they are all set to load into the same location. Obviously weather and things will be slightly different on all three, but just to give you a bit of an idea as to which one will load up quicker for you. So the 8 Gen 1 is still highly optimised for Genshin Impact here, followed closely by the 2200. And we're still waiting on the S23 8 Gen 2 here, and that has just finally come into play. So you can see the difference here between them. Exynos still struggling a bit with Genshin. It takes a while to sort of load up, but it does get playable after a while. Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 straight away is absolutely fine, as is the 8 Gen 2, but it did take a bit longer to actually get into the game. Okay, next up is COD Mobile. Very quick there on the S23, followed very closely by both S22s. Okay, so I can't start this with the mouse, so I'm going to have to start it with my fingers, I'm afraid. Okay, so a good win there for the S22 Ultra 8 Gen 1, followed very closely by the 2200 and then the S23 with its 8 Gen 2 in third place. Right, next up is Fortnite. S23 winning there, followed very closely by the S22 8 Gen 1. And bringing up the rear is the Exynos 2200. So we can see here we're set to 60 on all with low graphics settings. So I'm going to click start on all three at the same time, but obviously this will depend on which server they connect to. So take this one with a bit of a grain of salt. And again, it won't let me use the mouse, so I'm going to have to use my fingers here. Next up is Asphalt 9. Very close there between the S22 and S23 Snapdragon variants. Just load into a level here, just the first one. Okay, now we're going to test the RAM management out and see if those games are still loaded into memory. So that's a no for PUBG, that has gone. I'll just let them all get to the same state. So we can check Genshin Impact as well. So we can see there that the two Snapdragons did keep the game in memory. Sadly, the Exynos did not. So let's exit and get into the same state on all phones. Try Call of Duty. So it's still there on the S23 Ultra. Obviously the game has been kicked due to being idle, but it was still loaded. Now, amazingly, the Fortnite game is still there on both the Snapdragon variants here. I'm not 100% sure how, or if that's even working properly, but it is actually still in the game, which is quite amazing really. So let's exit out of the match. And finally we'll go back to Asphalt 9. And that has actually gone from all three. Okay, so some pretty good memory management overall for the Snapdragons. Not so good there for the Exynos though, but let's move on to the speed test now and we'll see how they do here. This is a Wi-Fi 6 network that they are connected to, and it's a gigabit connection, so I'd expect around 400 to 600 megs download and about 100 upload. So I'd say that the Exynos was better there overall with the Wi-Fi speed test. On average, the download was a lot quicker than both of the Snapdragon variants. The 8 Gen 1 was next. It was a lot closer to the Exynos than the S23, which was very poor in my opinion compared to what it should be. So I'll just load up the device hardware info here and you can have a quick look at the device information. Just so you can see none of this is faked at all. Now interestingly, if we have a look at the final temperatures, we've got a 33 on both the S22s and a 30 degrees on the S23. So the S23 8 Gen 2 definitely running cooler than the previous chipset and the Exynos 2200. We can also see the battery life is better as well, but that is obviously expected. This is a brand new battery. We've got an extra 5% remaining on the S23 Ultra here, followed very closely by the Exynos 2200 with 84%, and then the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 with 83% remaining. So what I will do quickly is a quick video recording test here, and what we're going to do is just record a 4K video and see how much the phones heat up after say half an hour of recording. So I'm going to set these off now, and then we'll come back once they've finished recording and we'll just see how they do heat wise with video recording. Okay, so there we have it. This is 30 minutes of 4K video recording, and you can see here the 8 Gen 2 is running at just 35 degrees, the 8 Gen 1 is at 40, and the Exynos 2200 is at 38. So the 8 Gen 1 was always a bit warmer of a chipset compared to the Exynos, so that's not surprising. What is surprising is how well the 8 Gen 2 is doing here heat-wise in comparison to the S22 Ultra though. It really is fantastic to see the heat on this phone is actually not bad at all. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's clear to see the winner here, but let me know what your thoughts are down below. Are you thinking of getting the S23 Ultra? Are you going to stick with your S22? As there's not a huge amount in it to be honest, but you've obviously got the added benefit of that 8 Gen 2 here, which is a lot snappier in most tasks overall, and that extra bit of RAM management is quite nice as well. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and be sure to turn on the bell notification because I've obviously got a camera test coming up and also a benchmark comparison test between these three phones. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.